My name is Patricia. The night they kicked me out, it wasn't just the door that slammed behind me, it was my entire life. I was standing there, barefoot, trembling, one hand on my stomach, trying to protect the tiny heartbeat growing inside me, while my own family looked at me like I was nothing. Not their daughter, not their blood, just a mistake. My mother wouldn't even look at me. My father pointed toward the gate like I was a stranger. Leave and don't ever come back. I begged. I cried. But the truth didn't matter. The lie they believed was stronger than my voice. And just like that, at 19 years old, pregnant, alone, I was thrown into a world that didn't care whether I survived. But here's the thing they didn't know. The child they called a shame was going to become something they could never imagine, something powerful, something unstoppable. And 20 years later, when my son walked into their lives, the same people who abandoned me couldn't even look him in the eyes, because he wasn't just my son. He was the truth they tried to bury, and the revenge they never saw coming. Tell me, you people are watching from where, and what time is it there right now? And if you want to stay connected with stories like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear will stay with you forever. And the night my life ended was the night my child's life began. It was supposed to be a normal evening. The house smelled like dinner, the same way it always did. My mother was in the kitchen. My father was watching TV. My younger sister sitting there with that quiet smile I never understood. But something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Like the air itself was waiting for something to explode. "Patricia, sit down." My father's voice was cold. Too calm. That was the first sign. I remember my hands shaking as I sat across from them. My heart was already racing, like it knew what was coming. Then my sister spoke, and in that moment, my world collapsed. "She's been seeing someone behind your back," she said. "She's pregnant." The words didn't just hit me. They shattered me. "What?" my mother whispered. I immediately shook my head. No, that's not. But my sister didn't stop. "She's been hiding it for months," she continued, her voice perfectly steady. "I saw her. I know everything." Everything? She knew nothing. But the way she said it, so confident, so convincing, it made the lie feel real. "I trusted you," my father said, standing up slowly. "Baba, please, listen to me," I begged, tears already falling. But he didn't want the truth. He wanted someone to blame, and I was standing right there. "I raised you better than this," he said, "and this is how you repay us?" "I didn't do anything wrong, I swear. I was going to tell you." "Tell us what?" my mother snapped, her eyes full of disgust. "That you brought shame into this house?" That word, shame. It wrapped around my throat like a chain. "I'm still your daughter," I whispered. But my sister leaned back, watching everything like it was a show. And for the first time, I saw it. The satisfaction in her eyes. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. "You've embarrassed us enough," my father said. Then he pointed toward the door. "Get out." I froze. "What?" "Leave this house," he repeated, "and don't come back." The room went silent. Even the clock on the wall felt louder than my heartbeat. "Please, I have nowhere to go," I said, my voice breaking. "You should have thought about that before ruining your life," my mother replied. Ruining my life? Or did someone else ruin it for me? I turned to my sister, desperate, hoping for even a hint of guilt. But she just smiled. A small, cold, victorious smile. That was the moment I understood. She didn't just betray me, she destroyed me. Please, just listen to me once, I begged again. But my father grabbed my arm and dragged me to the door. I can still feel it, the force, the anger, the complete absence of love. He opened the door and pushed me out. I stumbled, nearly falling. The night air hit my face, cold and unforgiving, and before I could even turn back, slam. The door closed, locked, just like that. I stood there, staring at the house that used to be my home. My hands slowly moved to my stomach, tears streaming down my face. "I'm here," I whispered. "I won't leave you." Because even if the world abandoned me, I wasn't going to abandon my child. That night, I slept on the street. No blanket, no food, no future. Just pain and a promise. A promise that one day the truth would come out, and when it did, they would regret everything. The first morning after they threw me out, I woke up on cold concrete, with the sun burning my face. For a few seconds, I didn't move, because I didn't want to remember. But reality doesn't wait. It comes back, slowly, painfully, until it wraps around your chest and makes it hard to breathe. I opened my eyes, and the first thing I did was place my hand on my stomach. Still there, still real, still mine. "I'm here," I whispered again, my voice dry, cracked, "and I'm not going anywhere." But the world around me didn't care about promises. Cars passed by. People walked past me like I didn't exist. Some stared, some judged, some avoided me completely. A pregnant girl sitting alone on the street. To them, I wasn't a human. I was a story, a mistake, a warning. I slowly pushed myself up, my body aching from the night before. My legs trembled, but I forced myself to stand. Because I had no choice. There was no home to go back to, no door waiting to open, no mother calling my name. Just silence and survival. The first place I went to was the only place I thought might help. An old clinic, 2 streets away from our house. I had been there once before, when I was a child. Back when life was still simple. Back when I still belonged somewhere. I walked in, nervous, scared, holding my stomach like it was the only thing keeping me alive. The nurse at the front desk looked up at me. Her eyes scanned me from toe to toe. Dirty clothes, barefoot, swollen eyes. She already decided who I was before I even spoke. "I need help," I said softly. She sighed. "Do you have money?" That question, it hit harder than anything else, because the answer was nothing. I don't," I admitted. She looked away immediately. "We can't treat you for free." Treat. Not help. Not care. Just treat. Like I was a problem with a price. "Please, I'm pregnant," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I don't have anywhere else to go." For a moment, just a moment, her expression softened. But then it disappeared. "Try a government hospital," she said, already losing interest. And just like that, another door closed. The next few days blurred together. Hunger became normal, pain became constant, and fear became my shadow. I slept wherever I could. Bus stops, empty corners, once even behind a closed shop. Every night, I wrapped my arms around my stomach, as if I could shield my child from the world. "You're safe," I would whisper, even when I wasn't. Then, one evening, everything changed. I was sitting near a small roadside cafe. The smell of food was unbearable. It made my stomach twist, not just from hunger, but from the reminder that I couldn't afford even a single bite. I hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. My vision was starting to blur, and for the first time, I felt something I had been fighting so hard to ignore: hopelessness. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was a mistake. Maybe this child was a burden. Tears filled my eyes as those thoughts crept in. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "No, you're not a mistake." But my voice sounded weak, unconvincing, like even I didn't fully believe it. And that's when I heard it. "Hey, girl." I looked up slowly. An older woman stood in front of me. Simple clothes, kind eyes, a face touched by years of struggle, but not broken by it. She held a small paper bag in her hand. "You haven't eaten, have you?" I couldn't speak. I just shook my head. She sat down beside me, like it was the most normal thing in the world. No judgment, no distance, no disgust. Just presence. "Here," she said, placing the bag in my hands. I hesitated. "I can't pay you," I said quickly. She smiled. "I didn't ask for money." That sentence, it broke something inside me. In a good way. I slowly opened the bag. Bread. A simple meal. But to me, it felt like everything. Tears fell as I took my first bite. Not because of the food, but because someone finally saw me as human. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Patricia." "And yours?" "Maria," she said. I nodded. "Thank you." She watched me eat for a moment, then her eyes moved to my stomach. "How far along?" "Almost 3 months," I said quietly. "And the father?" The question froze me, but before I could answer, she raised her hand. "You don't have to tell me," she said softly. That was the first time someone respected my silence. That night, Maria didn't leave me on the street. "Come with me," she said. I hesitated. Trust wasn't easy anymore, but something about her felt safe. So I followed. Her home was small, very small. A single room, old furniture, a weak light bulb hanging from the ceiling. But to me, it felt like a palace because it had something I hadn't felt in days: warmth. "You can stay here for now," she said. "For now?" I repeated. She smiled slightly. "Until you learn how to stand on your own." Those words, they didn't sound like pity. They sounded like belief. That night, I lay on a thin mattress, but for the first time since everything happened, I wasn't cold. I placed my hand on my stomach again. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. And this time, for the first time, I believed it. Because the world may have thrown me away, but it also gave me something unexpected: a second chance. And I didn't know it yet, but that small room, that simple act of kindness, was the beginning of something much bigger. Because I wasn't just going to survive anymore. I was going to rise. For myself. For my child. And one day, for the truth. The first time I called that tiny room home, I didn't say it out loud, because I was afraid if I did, it might disappear. But days turned into weeks, and weeks slowly turned into something I hadn't felt in a long time: stability. Maria didn't ask me questions I wasn't ready to answer. She didn't treat me like a burden. Instead, she gave me something far more dangerous: responsibility. "If you're going to stay," she told me one morning, "you're going to work." I nodded immediately. "I will do anything," I said. And I meant it, because I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was fighting for the life growing inside me. My first job was washing dishes at that same roadside cafe where Maria had found me. The owner didn't want to hire me at first. "A pregnant girl? She'll quit in a week," he said. But Maria didn't argue. She just looked at me, and I stepped forward. "I won't quit," I said firmly. Something in my voice must have convinced him. "Fine," he muttered. "Low pay, long hours. I'll take it." And just like that, my new life began. The work was hard. My hands stayed soaked in dirty water for hours. My back ached constantly. The smell of leftover food made me sick some days. But I never complained, because every plate I washed, every hour I worked, was proof of something important. I was not weak. I was not a mistake. I was still standing. Months passed, and my body changed. My stomach grew, and with it, my fear. "What if I can't do this?" I whispered one night. Maria sat beside me. "You already are," she replied. "But I'm alone." She shook her head. "No, you were abandoned. That's different." I looked at her. "You still have yourself," she said, "and that child will have you." Her words stayed with me, because for the first time, I realized something. I wasn't alone. I had me. The night my son was born was nothing like I imagined. No family, no celebration, no soft music or smiling faces. Just pain. Raw, unbearable, endless pain. Maria held my hand the entire time. "Breathe, Patricia, breathe." I screamed, I cried, I begged for it to stop. But then, in the middle of all that chaos, I heard it. A cry. Small, fragile, but powerful enough to silence everything. My son. They placed him in my arms, and the world stopped. He was so tiny, so perfect, so innocent. Tears streamed down my face as I looked at him. "Hi," I whispered. "I'm your mom." And in that moment, something inside me changed forever. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I had a purpose. I named him Daniel because it meant strength, and that's exactly what he was going to be. Raising Daniel wasn't easy. There were days I worked until my body felt like it would collapse, nights when I stayed awake just to make sure he was breathing. There were moments when I had to choose between eating myself or feeding him. I always chose him. Every time. As he grew, so did my determination. I started taking extra work, cleaning houses, washing clothes, anything that paid even a little. And slowly, very slowly, things began to change. I saved money. Not much, but enough. Enough to dream. When Daniel turned 5, I made the hardest decision of my life. I went back to studying, at night, after work, after putting him to sleep. While the world rested, I fought. I studied like my life depended on it, because it did. I wasn't just trying to survive anymore. I was building something, a future. "Why do you work so hard, Mama?" Daniel asked me one night. I smiled, brushing his hair back. "So you never have to feel what I felt," I said softly. He looked at me with those innocent eyes. "I'll take care of you one day," he said. My heart broke and healed at the same time. "You already do," I whispered. Years passed, and that scared, broken girl started to disappear. In her place, someone new was rising, stronger, sharper, unbreakable. I completed my studies, got a better job, then another and another, each step pulling me further away from the girl who once slept on the street and closer to something they never imagined I could become. But I never forgot. Not the night they threw me out, not the look in my sister's eyes, not the word shame that echoed in my mind for years. I carried it all. Not as pain anymore, but as fuel. One evening, when Daniel was 18, he walked into the room wearing a suit. Confident, calm, powerful. For a moment, I couldn't breathe because I saw it. Not the child I once held in my arms, but the man he had become. "Are you ready?" I asked. He smiled. "I've been ready my whole life." I nodded slowly, because I knew what this moment meant. Everything we had worked for, everything we had endured had led to this. "They don't know who I am, do they?" he asked. I shook my head. "No." "And you never told them?" "No." He looked at me carefully. "Do you want me to go?" I stepped closer to him, my voice calm, steady. "No," I said. "I want them to see." Because after 20 years, the truth wasn't just coming back, it was walking straight to their door. And this time, I wasn't the weak girl they threw away. I was the storm they created. 20 years. That's how long it took for the past to come knocking. But when it didn't knock gently. It arrived with power. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but emotionally. The same gate, the same walls, the same place that once felt like my entire world, now looked like something I had outgrown. I stood across the street, watching. My heart wasn't racing, my hands weren't shaking, because the girl who had been thrown out that night was gone. And beside me stood the reason why. Daniel, dressed in a sharp suit, confident posture, eyes calm but filled with something deeper. Strength. "Is this the place?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "Yes." He studied the house for a moment. "This is where they chose to lose you," he said. Not angry, not emotional, just factual. And somehow, that hurt more than anything. We walked toward the gate together. Each step felt like a memory being rewritten. Not erased, rewritten. Daniel reached for the bell, then paused. "Once I ring this," he said, looking at me, "there's no going back." I met his eyes. "There was never anything to go back to," I replied. He nodded and pressed the bell. A few seconds later, the door opened, and there she was, my mother. Older, weaker, but the same eyes that once looked at me with disgust. She stared at Daniel first, confused. "Yes?" she asked. Daniel's voice was calm. "Good afternoon," he said. "I'm here regarding a business matter." Business, the perfect disguise, because they didn't deserve the truth yet. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. We entered, and just like that, I was back inside the house that once rejected me. Everything looked the same. The furniture, the walls, even the clock that used to echo in silence that night. But the feeling? Completely different. Because this time, I wasn't powerless. My father walked in from the other room. His steps slower now, his face aged, but I recognized him instantly. "Who is this?" he asked. Daniel stepped forward. "My name is Daniel. I represent a company interested in acquiring this property." Their expressions changed immediately. Interest, curiosity, greed. "How much are we talking about?" my father asked. Daniel mentioned a number. A big one. Big enough to make their eyes widen. Big enough to make them forget everything else. And then she walked in. My sister. The same one who destroyed my life. She looked different, but not enough. Because I saw it again. That same look in her eyes. Calculating. Selfish. Unchanged. She glanced at me briefly, but didn't recognize me. To her, I was just another stranger. "Why would your company want this house?" she asked Daniel. Daniel smiled slightly. "Because sometimes places hold value beyond money." She frowned, not understanding. Of course she didn't. Then my father spoke again. "We're willing to sell," he said quickly, "at the right price." Of course you are, I thought. You always were. Daniel looked at me for a brief second. That was the moment. The shift. The end of waiting. "Before we proceed," Daniel said calmly, "I'd like to ask something." "Of course," my mother replied. "Did you ever have a daughter named Patricia?" Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. My mother's face changed instantly. My father stiffened, and my sister froze. "Why are you asking that?" my father said slowly. Daniel didn't break eye contact. Just answer the question. My mother's lips trembled. "We did," she admitted. "Did?" Daniel repeated. "She left," my sister cut in quickly. Left. The lie. Still alive after 20 years. Daniel nodded slowly. "I see." Then he took a step back and looked at me. "Would you like to handle this part?" he said softly. All eyes turned to me. Confusion, curiosity, and then I stepped forward. My heart was calm, my voice steady, but my eyes, they carried 20 years of truth. "I didn't leave," I said quietly. Their faces changed. Shock. Recognition. Disbelief. "Patricia?" my mother whispered. "Yes," I replied. "The daughter you threw away." My father stepped back like he had seen a ghost. My sister's face lost all color. "No, that's not possible." "Oh, it is," I said, "and I remember everything." "You lied," I said, looking directly at my sister. Her lips trembled. I didn't—" "You destroyed my life," I continued. "You took my voice and gave them a lie." Tears filled her eyes, but I didn't stop. Because this wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about truth. "You called me shame," I said, turning to my parents. "You threw me out like I was nothing." My mother broke down crying. "We didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I corrected. Then Daniel stepped forward and stood beside me. "This," I said, my voice stronger now, "is the child you rejected before he was even born." They looked at him, really looked at him this time, and suddenly everything changed. "This is my son," I said, "the shame you couldn't accept." Daniel's presence filled the room. Confidence, success, power.
everything they said he would never be. And today, I continued, he's the one you were ready to impress for money. Silence crushed the room. We don't want your house, Daniel said calmly. We just wanted you to see what you lost. My father's eyes filled with regret. My mother collapsed into tears. My sister couldn't even speak. I took one last look around. Not with pain, not with anger, but with closure. 20 years ago, you closed the door on me, I said. Today, I'm the one walking away. And this time, they were the ones left behind. As we stepped out, Daniel looked at me. Do you feel better? He asked. I smiled softly. Not better. Free. Because revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about becoming so powerful that the people who hurt you can never reach you again.